Hi there, it's Brian Malouf coming at you again from the studio with some more tips and tricks in this video series designed to give you a glimpse into the moves I make when mixing a song from front to back. Today we are going to look at the master fader and its compression devices, how I use them, and hopefully get the right result for the mix that we're doing of Colby Calais' The Way I Was. Let's get started. This whole time we've been mixing, we have been listening to the unadulterated stereo bus, just the levels that were being fed to it without any compression or expansion or EQ. I have been mixing into this NLS bus, which has got a little bit of drive on it, as you can see. I added that probably about maybe 3/4 of the way into that original Get My Balances mix, and just to give the mix a little grit and to really act like a little bit of a glue gun for this track. It's a typical move I would make on something very beautiful and clean like this, because I don't want it too beautiful and clean. In the last session where we looked at vocals, after I was done with that, I started really kind of letting my stereo bus take shape. And a lot of times people will add these kinds of devices just to get it louder, so that when the client hears your mix and compares it to their rough mix or to anything that's been on the radio, it doesn't suffer from a lack of volume. I support that view and do that as well. However, in the case of these three devices, which I typically use on my mixes, and they're not the only things I use, but you'll find these three on most of the things I do. And in this order, this is an SSL bus compressor emulation. This is a fabulous device by Isotope called Ozone 5. And what it is, I think we've talked about this before, it's 7 processors in one. And this is very useful dynamics processing plugin by McDSP, which is probably my favorite plugin that they've ever developed there, and they're all great. And we'll look at these things one at a time. So hopefully you'll be able to hear these differences as they come. The first one's going to be very subtle. Here's the G, the solid state logic G bus.
Please remember me the way I was when the crows fly south and the breeze.
So 1, maybe 2 dB of compression, and therefore only need maybe a dB or so of makeup gain. Very quick release, very slow attack. 4:1. This is a typical setting for me. I've been using for 25 years. It just tightens up the bottom end ever so much for me without stepping on anybody's toes. Let's go to the next device. This will be the Ozone. Please remember me the way I was when the crows fly south and the preacher shouts. I hope you remember me, yeah, the way I was, the way I was. I hope you remember me the way I was. Please remember me, please remember me, please remember me the way I was. So I have 5 of the available 7 devices engaged. Maximizer, that gives me that volume, first stage of it. More volume in this stage of dynamics. So stereo imaging, I want to notice, I think I have talked about this before because I remember this, but narrowing the low end, broadening the middle, and really broadening the top. The exciter, just a little bit of a, loudness curve. And on this equalizer, same thing, a little bit of a loudness curve, really not much at all. And so that gives me a big full sound. It's a nice stage of compression and limiting, and this all happens before we get to the ML4000. So let's look and see what that does next.
Please remember me the way you was when the crows fly south and the preacher shouts. I hope you remember me, yeah, the way I was, the way I was.
So you can see I'm going over a little bit on this. I'll change that in a little bit because I don't necessarily want it hitting it quite this hard. But you were seeing some gain reduction from this peak limiter. But over here in the expansion section, notice there's really no compression to speak of. Here I'm changing the meter. See, the threshold's all the way open on the compressor. I'm not using it. It's not even on here. We're just using a little gating and expansion and this limiter. Switch back. And what it's doing to my ears, and it's evident on the graph as well, is it's equalizing the different bands. This is a four-way crossover, 3 crossover points. And it's doing it by expansion. It's increasing levels where they are deficient from the source, which is going from here to here to here to here. So we got quite a lot of gain now. A mastering engineer can still get more, and oftentimes I will take off these output device stages before I send to mastering so that he has all the room in the world to work with. Because if you look at the NLS bus, look at the meters on the NLS.
Please remember me the way you was.
So that level is what's hitting the SSL, and then the ozone, and then the ML4000. So if I take these two devices off primarily, you're left with a very nominal, basically 0 VU gain structure for a mastering engineer, which they really appreciate. Another reason to keep that original volume stage at a nominal 0 VU level is oftentimes I will add this wonderful Ampex tape machine emulation to the stereo mix. I haven't done it to this song, didn't feel it needed it, but this adds a nice punch and bottom end to anything we're doing in the digital world. Anyway, that's about all the time we have for today. Hope you enjoyed it, and we're going to wrap this series up on our next visit. Take care. Happy mixing.